Hello, and welcome to From the Top podcast and interview series. I'm your host, Mike Martin, and I'm joined today by Patrick McNichol, owner of Mainline Junk Removal. Patrick, thank you for being with us today.
Thanks so much for having me.
So maybe you can give us just a little background on yourself and your company.
Sure thing. So in 2014, my partner Kevin and I started Suburban Solutions Moving, and we worked together on our moving company, which I still operate today. In 2020, we started Mainline Junk Removal. Recently, in 2023, I ended up buying out my partner of both companies, so now it's just me operating Suburban Solutions Moving and Mainline Junk Removal out of the Havertown area. We support all of southeastern Pennsylvania for junk removal, both residential and commercial. So we do anything from picking up a single couch or a TV from a resident's home to full commercial cleanouts, and demolition as well. So we can do a little bit of pretty much anything. And then on the moving side, Suburban Solutions Moving is a full service pack move, local and long distance moving. We also offer storage services. So pretty much anything relocation related we can handle, and anything commercial cleanouts for property managers, leasing agents. We do hoarding cleanouts, estate sales, and whatnot. So if you need to move it or get rid of it, we're your one-stop shop.
Right. So I would imagine, do you have quite a bit of overlap between those two
So
businesses?
that's why we really started to grow these businesses together. You can only so many people are going to move in a given year. I can't convince you that you're going to need to move anytime soon, but I can probably convince you that you've got something you want to get rid of. And anybody that is moving, especially realtors, will agree with me that there is always something to get rid of, especially before the homes go on the market. Most realtors want
Mhm.
to tear things down, so we can come in and kind of set the stage for a listing appointment for realtors, and then afterwards sometimes people buy a home and there's stuff that's they don't want
Mhm.
there, so we can get
Right.
rid of that as well. So yeah, I mean they kind of go hand in hand. And then we really pivoted about a year ago into the senior downsizing space, because when you are downsizing, we're a perfect match because we can handle the packing and organizing, decluttering, sorting through what's good, what's bad. We handle the packing and the moving, and then we handle anything that needs to be donated or moved to friends or family's homes, and then the last of it is what we can't repurpose, and we just get rid of that for you.
Wow. Yeah. Well, I can definitely attest to a lot of that from personal experience. I mean,
Yes.
when I've moved, I probably brought too much stuff.
Yep.
Whenever you move and you always have that pile of boxes that you don't unpack for 10 years, maybe you should have gotten rid of it, right?
It's funny that how many times people will pay us to move them from A to B, and then 2 weeks later we get a phone call, hey, can you come to our new home and get rid of all this stuff? Like, we already paid me to move it. I feel badly, but
Right.
I wish people would think about it beforehand. But you
Right.
want to get into the new home, see what fits and what doesn't, and then you get to pick and choose what you like, and then we can come in and handle any removal process thereafter.
Yeah. Absolutely. And I love when in business and for entrepreneurs listening, this is a strategy I just love so much where you can find ways to grow through this sort of tangent business or a symbiotic add-on, something
Absolutely.
that you can do where both things feed each other and it grows. And you have something there that just so clearly helps, they're so linked. It's just great. It's a really strong strategy.
Thank you.
You can
Yep.
double your business with that kind of thing.
Yeah, the each one is a lead source for the other. If I can keep my marketing costs down, my acquisition costs down through, just getting billable time, then that's win-win.
Yeah, and actually, that's a great point as well. It's both the revenue side because they're leads for each other, but then you also get reduction in overall expenses, the cost of goods, because you may be using the same trucks for both businesses. Like you said, your marketing, you
Yeah.
get economies of scale. There's just so many positive things that come out of that.
The benefits in the overhead, because I can have the same management team for both businesses. It allows me to
Mhm.
scale and offer more support staff, I can't always hire another salesperson or an operations manager just for one company, but when you can split that cost, things can really
Yeah,
start to scale.
absolutely. And you're probably providing better service because you have, this more robust infrastructure of, being able to answer the call because you have one person who's covering enough for both. You can do
Yep.
full-time
There,
coverage on a lot of things.
there's pros and cons to it. Obviously, if everybody's doing the same companies, and if there's like vacations or things like that, then it can become a
Sure.
little bit challenging. But the benefits outweigh the cons for sure.
Absolutely. Yeah, yeah. No, that's great. And not something that we've really talked yet about on this podcast. So it's great that you brought that up. It's because it's such a huge
Of
strategy that
course.
can pay off. So any sort of common misconceptions about running that type of business, like home services, B2C type business that come to mind?
I mean, moving is not sexy by any means, but it's technology proof. You're not, even though there are autonomous commercial vehicles out there, I don't anticipate the day where, in my lifetime, where robots are going to replace moving and junk removal businesses. There's just a need for that human touch. Um, Nobody likes to move, right? So everybody wants to get rid of their stuff, but no one has the means to do it. So
Mhm.
we're kind of a necessary evil. Well, that's not the right term, but we're necessary and we're irreplaceable. Certainly
Right. It's
there's
a function that is always going to be needed.
exactly right. Yep. So, um, unsexy, would I love to be a sports agent or something like that? Sure. But, unsexy businesses are successful and everybody is going to need them. People look at it this way. People are only going to accumulate more and more items. So eventually those things need to get thrown out, stored, or moved. So, our
Mhm.
long-term plan is we have a small warehouse now. Long-term plan is to have a substantial warehouse. So as our the world is very highly commercialized, as we all know. So people are just going to consume and consume and consume, and I can handle all aspects of the post consumption of any kind of purchases. So, you're
Mhm.
going to need me at some point.
Yeah. Yeah, it's really interesting. And I've been thinking a lot more about this, especially since starting top-down strategies, is I spent much of my career in the knowledge worker area,
Okay.
IT management consulting, implementing software. And what we're seeing now with AI and even just the general advancement and maturity of technology, knowledge work is sort of maybe on a shorter time horizon than things that actually require a person to go to a place and do something,
Yep.
or to serve a consumer who comes to your place and you need to do something for and with that person as your service. It's this macroeconomic shift that's going on, and you're totally spot on. It will probably be one of the last things, if ever, that sort of gets replaced.
Yeah,
It's really at the tail end of when robots will come in and move all your stuff for you.
totally.
If anything, it might help make the lifting easier. You might have other tools that you can use, right? But
There you
in the
go.
but you still need the people there. That's
Yes.
great. So, running two businesses, how do you kind of keep your, balance between your work and your non-work lives going?
I try to ebb and flow, right? So, when I'm working, I try to put in enough time to enjoy the benefit of taking time off. So, there was different iterations of how I kind of handled this. So for a while I would, maybe work 8 to 3, or 9 to 2, or, like some shorter hours, but more days.
Mhm.
These days I'm trying to spend longer days working, um, but then take like a long weekend or more vacation time. I'm never really off, if that makes sense. Even if I
Mm.
was away this weekend for a wedding, and Friday evening when I knew my sales team was out, I was answering some calls, and I just booked a very large job on my way into the office today, because you kind of have to always be available. But so it's
Mhm.
kind of both, right? So I've kind of got used to just always working. My wife might not agree with me, but even if we're on
Yeah.
we take enough vacation time where I just make sure I'm keeping up with the business no matter what. And I think that helps with my team knowing that even if I'm away, I'm still there if they need me.
Yeah. Yeah, it's and this may sort of go back to the misconception of people who aren't entrepreneurs or in that role of running or owning a business that you're so right. You really can't fully, disengage because it's your business, and ultimately, I hate to use cliches, but like the buck stops with you, the owner, right? Like if something isn't handled elsewhere, eventually the only way it gets taken care of is if you handle it, right?
Totally. Yeah, I mean
Yeah,
the rule of thumb I try to live by is, if somebody can do something as 80% as well as you, then that's a win.
yeah,
So always try. The goal is an absentee style ownership, but I'll never be able to just be totally absentee. But I want to build the revenue up and the support team and all their standard operating procedures and all that fun stuff to the point where everything is scripted. There's an answer or a response to any scenario, and if I need to hire additional staff, that there's a system in place to get them onboarded and get them up and running in as short a time as possible.
yeah. Absolutely. And I love what you said there because it's something I preach to my clients all the time. You can kind of try to be an owner or have a business and you end up just in a job that kind of sucks because everything, you're just working constantly and working hard. And so this idea of having somebody else do it even at 80% as well as you is so huge. I preach it with my clients. You have to offload. I think the key role, and this is my quote, I know I forget where it came from, but the role of a leader is to build more leaders, right? Do you find that
Yeah,
in your business? You're building more
definitely.
leaders so that you can find that space?
Yeah, and that's not easy. It's to give lower level management is the hardest job in running a business.
Mm,
In our field, we have guys out in crews that are out performing the work every day, and the people that are managing them, that's a hard job. To get
yeah,
people to show up to do manual labor, isn't that easy. I try to give them the tools that they need, and I'm still learning a lot on how to prepare our management team to be leaders and to groom other leaders. That's not simple. But we're working on it, and we will always strive to improve, and that's all you can ask. As long as we're doing better than the day before, that's kind of the mantra that I try to push. I don't need you to go from 0 to 60 in 2 seconds, but I need you to take a couple steps each day. And that
right.
over time, it's just like it's investing, right? Like over time, it's like compound. I consider it compound interest. So if we can compound
Yeah,
growth, then 5 years down the road, then it should be a very different scene.
yeah, yeah, for sure. One second. Sorry about that. So yeah, absolutely. And you talked about the warehouse a little bit. So I was going to ask next, sort of, what's your plans for the future? What's kind of coming up for you?
Sure. So we just held, I'm sure you're familiar with the EOS, traction style of
Hmm.
management. So we just held our first VTO meeting in the beginning, when was that? March of this year. So I had all of our management team on site or off site for a day. We built our 10-year plan and whittled that down to 90-day plan. The 10-year plan is to have get to 10 million in revenue. We're just under 2 million this year. Well, past 2 million this year, I should say. But to grow from 2 million to 10 million, I'll have two different divisions that are doing at least 2 million a year and have a 50,000 square foot warehouse. Having a warehouse
Mm,
size is opened up a lot of doors for revenue generation. It's not the easiest in our area to find an affordable piece of land that you can build a warehouse on, or to purchase a warehouse or lease one. It's commercial real estate in the Philadelphia area is
mm, yeah,
extravagant.
yeah,
So that'll be a challenge, but it's something that if as long as I keep focus on, then we should get there.
that's great. Yeah. So if you could wave a magic wand over one area of your business and have any result that you would desire, what would that be?
accountability and autonomy in the field. The guys that are
Mhm.
not just looking to earn a paycheck, but to succeed and improve and to just to do a good job for themselves, their families, and our customers. To hold the younger generation, to hold them accountable, and to get them to want to better themselves. It's a challenge. There's some guys
Yeah.
that are here that are great at it. Some guys, we're still working on, but accountability would be great.
Yeah. No, that makes sense. I mean, my viewpoint is that's the single greatest tool or aspect to enable execution.
Yep.
Um, I have a book coming out in June called The Self-Fulfilling Formula, and I talk about the self-fulfilling formula as mental fitness, social fitness, and execution fitness. And so you're spot on that. In my mind, execution fitness comes all down to accountability, whether
Yep.
you're holding yourself accountable or somebody else is holding
Both
you
are very
accountable.
important. Empathy is also, I think, if you can be accountable and empathetic, then you're going to consider your own responsibilities, but also the needs of your teammates or your customers. If you can couple those two together, then man, you can
Mhm.
grow really quickly.
Yeah, spot on. And it's funny you say that because I talk about empathy and the mental fitness part and how, that's exactly
It
right.
sounds
How
like we've
you
got the same path there.
Yeah, yeah, very, very much so. We're on the same wavelength there. That's great. So any just kind of as we close out, any advice that you would give to aspiring entrepreneurs?
The 80% rule is huge. As
Mhm.
a young entrepreneur, you're going to be doing everything from start to finish. Once you can afford to hire people to take over your own responsibilities, just understand that it's okay if they don't do it the exact same way or to the exact same level of detail that you can, because you're going to be able to grow and focus on other aspects. So the
Mhm.
80% rule, I think, is huge. I would say hire some type of business coach. That's really
Mhm.
huge. I didn't do that until this past year. I wish I had done it sooner. Just to get outside eyes onto your business that have experience in multiple different fields. I think that's beneficial. And go through the process of just their process. Sometimes that can be a challenge to think outside your own box, but um,
Mhm.
try to build a team around you, and don't be afraid to ask advice from others.
Love it. That's a great line. Well, this has just been excellent. So many great points that you're making there. Absolutely love it. Thanks again for being with us today. Really appreciate it.
Absolutely, man. I really appreciate the time.
And to everyone listening, thank you so much for joining, and we'll see you in the next episode.